The small ship drifted through the asteroid field like a wounded bird. Its engines sputtered and coughed black smoke into the void of space. Inside the damaged vessel, 12 Velari huddled together in the cargo hold. They were small creatures, barely reaching the waist of an adult human. Their skin was pale blue, and their large eyes reflected the dim emergency lights that flickered above them. Elder Myra held the youngest ones close to her chest. Little Kip and his sister Sana trembled against her worn clothing. They had been running for 3 standard months now, running from the Korath Empire, running from slavery, running from death. The Velari were a peaceful people. They had no weapons, no military, no way to fight back when the Korath came to their world and demanded their submission. Elder Myra, whispered Bren, the young male who had been piloting their escape ship. The engines are failing. We have maybe 1 hour of life support left. Myra closed her 4 eyes and breathed slowly. This was how it would end then, not in chains serving the Korath, but floating free in space. Perhaps that was a better fate. At least they would die free. There is a signal, Bren said suddenly, his voice rising with both hope and fear. A ship is approaching. It is very large. The Velari crowded around the small window. Through the dirty glass, they saw a massive vessel emerge from behind an asteroid. It was dark gray with sharp angles and glowing blue lights along its hull. On its side, written in the common galactic tongue, were the words, Terran Marine Corps TSS Resolute. Terrans, breathed old Demos, the group's eldest male. I have heard stories of them. They are warriors, fierce beyond measure. Will they help us? Asked young Sana, her voice tiny and afraid. I do not know, little one, Myra admitted. The Terrans are new to the galaxy. No one truly knows what they will do. Their communication device crackled to life. A deep voice spoke in accented but clear galactic common. Unknown vessel, this is Sergeant Major James Chen of the Terran Marine Corps. We have detected your distress signal. Do you require assistance? Myra moved to the communication panel. Her hands shook as she pressed the transmit button. Yes, please, we are refugees. Our ship is dying. We have children aboard. Please help us. There was a pause, then the voice returned, somehow warmer than before. Children, hold tight, little ship. We're coming to get you. Prepare for emergency docking. The next hour passed in a blur. The massive Terran vessel moved alongside their tiny ship with surprising grace. A docking tube extended and connected to their airlock. When the doors opened, Myra found herself looking up at the largest beings she had ever seen. The Terrans were giants. The one in front stood nearly 3 times her height. He wore heavy armor colored in dark green and brown. His face was weathered and scarred, but his eyes were surprisingly gentle as he looked down at the group of frightened Velari. I'm Sergeant Major Chen, he said, lowering himself to one knee to be closer to their level. You're safe now, all of you, come with us. One by one, the Velari were helped through the docking tube and onto the Terran ship. The Marines moved around them like careful giants, speaking in soft voices and offering their hands for support. Little Kip stumbled, and a massive Marine caught him before he could fall, lifting him gently and carrying him the rest of the way. What is your name, little one? The Marine asked. Kip, the child whispered. I'm Corporal Davis. You're safe now, Kip. No one will hurt you here. They were taken to a large room filled with beds and medical equipment. Terran medics, still huge but wearing white instead of armor, began examining each refugee. They moved with surprising gentleness, their big hands careful and precise. Sergeant Major Chen sat with Elder Myra while a medic checked her vital signs. Tell me what happened, he said. Why are you running? Myra told him everything. She told him about their peaceful world, about the Korath invasion, about the camps where their people were forced to work until they died. She told him about the escape, about the friends they lost along the way, about the 3 months of hiding and running and starving. Chen listened without interrupting. His face grew harder as the story continued, but not with anger toward her. His eyes burned with something else entirely. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. The Korath, he finally said, they did this to your people. Yes, they are still doing it. Millions of our kind remain enslaved. Chen stood up slowly. He walked to the window and stared out at the stars. How many of you escaped? Just the 12 of us. We are all that remains of the free Velari. The sergeant major turned back to her. Where were you trying to go? Anywhere, everywhere. We just wanted to live. Chen nodded slowly. Then he did something that shocked Myra to her core. He knelt down before her and placed his right hand over his heart. Elder Myra, on behalf of the Terran Marine Corps, I offer you and your people sanctuary. From this moment forward, you are under our protection. The Velari are now family to us, and Terran Marines protect their family. Myra's eyes filled with tears. You would do this, you do not even know us. I know enough, I know your people who need help, that's all I need to know. News spread quickly through the ship. Within the hour, Marines from every section had come to see the refugees. They brought blankets, food, toys for the children. A young Marine named Private Torres sat with Sana and showed her pictures of Earth on his data pad. Another Marine, a huge woman named Corporal Jackson, taught Kip how to play a simple card game. Elder Myra watched all of this with wonder. These warriors, these fierce Terrans that the galaxy feared, were treating her people with more kindness than they had known in years. Little Kip was laughing. She had not heard him laugh since before the invasion. Captain Sarah Williams, the commanding officer of the Resolute, came to meet them that evening. She was tall and stern-looking, with short gray hair and sharp eyes, but when she looked at the Velari, her expression softened. Sergeant Major Chen has informed me of your situation, she said. I've already contacted Terran Command. They've approved your asylum request. You'll be taken to Earth, where you'll be given homes and citizenship. Earth, Myra breathed, the Terran homeworld. Yes, you'll be safe there. The Korath have no presence in our space, and they wouldn't dare attack our territory anyway. Why are you doing this? Myra asked. We have nothing to offer you. We are just refugees. Captain Williams smiled, and for a moment she looked almost maternal. Because it's the right thing to do, and because whoever hurts children, whoever enslaves peaceful people is our enemy. The Korath will learn that soon enough. That night, for the first time in 3 months, the Velari slept without fear. They slept on soft beds in warm rooms with full stomachs and clean clothes. And outside their doors, Terran Marines stood guard, not because they were prisoners, but because they were protected. Little did they know that their rescue would spark a war that would shake the galaxy to its core. The Korath Empire had made a terrible mistake when they enslaved the Velari, because now those same Velari had been adopted by the most protective species in the known universe. And Terran Marines never forget, and they never forgive. 3 weeks passed on the TSS Resolute. The ship continued its patrol route through the outer territories while awaiting transport coordinates to Earth. During this time, the Velari learned what it meant to be under Terran protection. Every morning, Sergeant Major Chen would visit the refugee quarters. He would check on each person, asking about their health, their comfort, their needs. He learned all their names within the first day. He remembered that old Demos liked his food warm but not hot. He knew that little Sana was afraid of the dark and made sure a night light was always available. He discovered that young Bren had a talent for fixing things and arranged for him to spend time with the ship's engineers. Why do you care so much about us? Bren asked one day while helping repair a broken door panel. The engineer working beside him, a big man named Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, laughed softly. Because you're ours now, kid. That's how it works with us Terrans. Once you're part of the family, you're part of the family forever. But we are not Terran. Doesn't matter, family isn't about blood or species. It's about who you choose to protect. Bren thought about this for a long time. The children adapted fastest, as children often do. Kip had become a favorite among the Marines. He followed Corporal Davis everywhere, asking endless questions about everything. Why was the ship so big? How did the engines work? Could he try on the armor? Davis answered every question with patience and often with a smile. Davis has gotten soft, joked another Marine, Private First Class Kim. Nothing soft about protecting kids, Davis replied. That takes real strength. Sana found a friend in Private Torres. The young Marine had 3 younger sisters back on Earth, and he treated Sana with the same gentle care. He taught her human words, showed her pictures of his family, and promised to introduce her to his sisters when they reached Earth. Will they like me? Sana asked, her big eyes worried. They're going to love you, Torres assured her. They always wanted an alien friend, and now they'll have the best one. Elder Myra spent most of her time with Captain Williams and Sergeant Major Chen. They wanted to know everything about the Korath Empire, their military strength, their tactics, their weaknesses. Myra told them what she could, though her knowledge was limited. She was an elder, a keeper of traditions, not a warrior or spy. The Korath are strong, she explained one afternoon in the captain's meeting room. They have conquered dozens of species. No one has ever successfully resisted them. No one has tried hard enough, Chen said quietly. Williams studied a holographic map of Korath space. Tell me about their slave camps. Where are they? How are they defended? There are camps on every conquered world. The one on our homeworld holds perhaps 500,000 of my people. It is guarded by Korath soldiers and automated defenses. 500,000, Williams repeated. She looked at Chen. That's a lot of people, Sergeant Major. Yes, ma'am, it is. Something passed between them, a silent communication that Myra did not understand. But she saw Chen nod slightly, and Williams' eyes grew hard with determination. Elder Myra, Williams said, I need you to tell me everything you know about those camp defenses. Every detail, no matter how small. Why, what are you planning? Williams smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who had found her prey. We're Marines, Elder Myra. We don't leave family behind. That evening, Myra learned what the Terrans truly were. She had been invited to watch a training exercise in the ship's combat simulation room. The space was huge, filled with obstacles and targets. A squad of Marines stood ready in full combat gear, their armor gleaming under harsh lights. This is Assault Team Bravo, Chen explained, standing beside her on an observation platform. They're practicing close-quarters combat scenarios. A horn sounded and the Marines exploded into action. Myra had never seen anything move so fast. The Terrans flowed through the obstacle course like water, their massive bodies somehow both graceful and terrifying. They fired their weapons with perfect accuracy, hitting every target. They moved as one unit, each Marine knowing exactly where the others would be. In less than 3 minutes, they had cleared the entire course. Not a single target remained standing. This is what we do, Chen said quietly. This is what we've been doing for thousands of years, protecting our own, fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. You are warriors, Myra whispered. We are Marines, there's a difference. What is the difference? Chen was quiet for a moment. Warriors fight because they love war. Marines fight because they love what war protects, our families, our people, our beliefs. He looked down at her. And now, your people. That night, Myra dreamed of her homeworld. But for the first time, her dreams were not nightmares of slavery and death. She dreamed of blue skies and green fields, of her people walking free once again. When she woke, she found little Kip and Sana already awake, sitting with several off-duty Marines in the mess hall. The children were eating something called pancakes and laughing at a story Corporal Davis was telling. And then, Davis said, waving his fork dramatically, the drill sergeant looked at us and said, Who told you to think? Did I order you to think? The children giggled, not quite understanding but enjoying the performance. Myra joined them, accepting a plate of food from a smiling cook. She still could not eat much at once. Her stomach had shrunk during the months of starvation, but the Terrans never pushed her, never made her feel ashamed of her small appetite. Elder Myra, Kip called out, Corporal Davis says we can visit the bridge today. We can see where the captain drives the ship. The captain doesn't drive, Davis corrected gently. She commands, but yes, the captain has approved a tour for you all. The bridge of the TSS Resolute was impressive. Dozens of Terrans worked at various stations, monitoring screens filled with information Myra could not understand. Captain Williams stood at the center, overseeing everything with calm authority. Welcome, Elder Myra, children, Williams said. Come, let me show you how we navigate the stars. The tour lasted an hour. The children were fascinated by everything. They asked endless questions, and every crew member took time to answer. Myra watched the Terrans interact with her people and felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. As they prepared to leave the bridge, an alarm suddenly blared. The friendly atmosphere vanished instantly. Every Terran snapped to attention, their faces becoming hard and focused. Report, Williams barked. Multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace, a sensor operator announced. Configuration matches Korath warships. Count is 7 vessels, including 1 carrier class. Myra's heart froze. They found us, they found us. Williams turned to her and her eyes were steady as stone. Elder Myra, take the children back to your quarters. Sergeant Major Chen will escort you. You'll be safe there. But the Korath have 7 ships, you only have 1. Williams smiled, that predator smile again. That's their problem, not ours. She turned to her crew. Battle stations, all hands battle stations. Let's show these slavers what happens when they mess with our family. Chen gently guided Myra and the children off the bridge. As the door closed behind them, Myra heard Williams issue one more order. Charge main batteries, target the lead ship, and someone send a message to those Korath bastards. Tell them they have one chance to turn around and leave, one chance to live. The battle for the Velari refugees had begun. The Korath fleet commander, Overlord Thaxis, stared at the single Terran ship on his display screen with contempt. These foolish humans, one ship against 7. He had heard rumors about Terran military power, but he dismissed them as propaganda. No species could be as dangerous as the humans claimed to be. His communication officer turned to him. Overlord, we are receiving a message from the Terran vessel. Play it. A Terran female appeared on the screen. She wore a dark uniform and stood with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. Korath vessels, this is Captain Sarah Williams of the TSS Resolute. You are in Terran-controlled space. Turn around and leave immediately or we will open fire. You have 30 seconds to comply. Thaxis laughed. His crew laughed with him. One ship threatens 7. These humans are insane. He leaned forward. Send a reply. Tell them to surrender the Velari slaves they have stolen from us. If they comply, we will let them live. If not, we will destroy their ship and take the slaves anyway. The message was sent. The 30 seconds passed. The Terran ship did not move. They chose death, Thaxis said. All ships open fire. 7 Korath vessels unleashed their weapons at once. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked through space toward the lone Terran ship. It should have been over in seconds. It was not. The Terran ship moved, not slowly, not carefully, but with sudden, violent speed that made Thaxis gasp. It twisted and rolled through the incoming fire, most shots missing entirely. The few that hit splashed against shields that glowed bright blue but did not fail. Then the Terran ship fired back. A single beam of white light lanced out from the Resolute. It struck the nearest Korath frigate dead center. For 1 second nothing happened, then the frigate exploded, not damaged, not disabled, exploded, 1 shot, 1 kill. Impossible, Thaxis breathed. On the Resolute, Captain Williams stood at her command station like a statue of war. Target the carrier next. All batteries, fire at will. The Terran ship was a fury of motion and destruction. It danced between the Korath vessels, too fast to hit, too dangerous to ignore. Its weapons fired continuously, each shot finding its mark. Another Korath ship exploded, then another. In the refugee quarters, the Velari huddled together as the ship shook from impacts. Sergeant Major Chen stood at the door, his rifle ready, his face calm. Are we going to die? Little Sana asked, tears streaming down her face. Chen knelt down beside her. No, little one, I promise you that. Our Marines will protect this ship, and if anyone gets through them, they'll have to get through me, and that's not going to happen. Outside, the battle raged on. 3 more Korath ships fell. Only the carrier and 1 escort remained. Overlord Thaxis screamed orders at his crew, but his fleet was in chaos. They had never faced anything like this. They had conquered dozens of species, and none had ever fought back like this. Retreat, Thaxis finally ordered. All ships retreat. The carrier began to turn, its massive engines powering up for hyperspace, but it was too slow. The Resolute fired 1 more time and the carrier's engines exploded. The great ship drifted dead in space. Williams looked at the crippled carrier on her screen. Communications, send them another message. Her face appeared on every screen on the disabled Korath carrier. Her voice was cold as the void of space. Overlord Thaxis, your fleet is destroyed, your ship is disabled. You came here to take our people, you failed. Run back to your empire and tell them what happened here today. Tell them that the Velari are under Terran protection now. And tell them that if they ever come for our family again, we won't stop at 1 fleet. We'll come for them, all of them. Is that understood? There was no response. The Korath carrier limped away, using emergency power to slowly crawl toward escape. Williams let them go. In the command center of the crippled Korath carrier, Overlord Thaxis sat in his chair, his mind unable to process what had happened. 6 ships, 6 warships destroyed in less than 10 minutes. His fleet, the pride of the Korath 3rd Assault Group, reduced to burning debris floating in the void. Send word to the Emperor, he finally managed to say. Tell him the Terrans are everything the rumors said, and worse. The message would take days to reach the Korath capital. When it arrived, it would spark panic in the imperial court. The emperor would demand explanations, answers, solutions. He would receive none, because there was no solution to the Terran problem. There was only the terrible truth. A new power had risen in the galaxy, and that power did not fear the Korath. The message needs to reach the Korath Emperor, she explained later to Elder Myra. They need to understand what they're dealing with now. You destroyed 6 warships with 1 vessel, Myra said, still in shock. How is that possible? Training, technology, and motivation. Williams looked at the Velari children playing with the Marines in the corner of the room. There's no greater motivation than protecting the innocent. The journey to Earth took 3 more weeks. No other Korath ships appeared. Word had apparently spread. The Velari spent the time learning about their new home. They watched videos of Earth's cities and forests and oceans. They learned about human culture and history, about the many wars humans had fought among themselves before they finally united and reached for the stars. Your species has known much violence, Myra observed to Chen one day. Yes, he admitted, we've hurt each other many times, but we've also learned from it. We learned that the only way forward is together, one species, one family, and now that family includes you. How can you be so kind after all the violence you have known? Chen thought about this for a while. Maybe because of it, we know what suffering feels like. We've caused it and we've felt it. So when we see others suffering, we can't just look away. It goes against everything we've learned. When they finally reached Earth, the Velari were overwhelmed. The planet was beautiful beyond words. Blue oceans and green lands, white clouds and bright cities. Millions of lights twinkled on the night side, showing a civilization that stretched across the entire world. This is your home now, Captain Williams told them as the shuttle descended toward the surface. Welcome to Earth. They landed at a spaceport in a place called Geneva. A crowd had gathered to meet them, not military but ordinary people. Families with children, elderly couples, young students. They held signs with words of welcome written in both human languages and the Velari script. How do they know our language? Myra asked, stunned. They learned it, Williams said. When word spread that you were coming, people started studying your culture. They wanted you to feel at home. The Velari stepped off the shuttle into warm sunshine. The crowd cheered. Children ran forward with flowers and gifts. Little Kip found himself surrounded by human children his size, all wanting to be his friend. Private Tor's sisters were there too. 3 young women rushed forward to embrace Sana, who they had heard so much about. You're really here, the youngest one cried. Miguel told us all about you. We're going to be best friends. Myra stood in the center of it all, tears streaming down her face. Old Demas stood beside her, crying as well. They welcome us, Demas whispered, truly welcome us. A human official approached them. She was a kind-looking woman with graying hair and warm eyes. Elder Myra, I am Director Chen of Terran Refugee Services. Yes, she added with a smile, Sergeant Major Chen is my son. He told me to take special care of you. Your son saved our lives. He did what any Marine would do. Now let us do what any Terran would do. Give you a home. She gestured to the crowd around them. Every person here has volunteered to help your people. We have homes ready for you, schools for the children, jobs for those who want them. Everything you need to start your new lives. The Velari were given housing in a beautiful community near the mountains. Each family had their own small home, but they were all close together, allowing them to maintain their communal bonds. The homes were designed with Velari comfort in mind, lower ceilings, warmer temperatures, soft lighting for their sensitive eyes. Sergeant Major Chen visited them on his leave days. He always brought gifts for the children and stories of his travels. Corporal Davis came too, becoming like an older brother to young Kip. Private Tors brought his sisters to visit Sana regularly, and soon the little Velari girl had more friends than she could count. Months passed. The Velari learned human ways while keeping their own traditions. They taught the humans their songs and dances, their stories and beliefs. Cultural exchange programs brought human students to learn from them, and Velari children attended human schools, making friends from dozens of human cultures. But Elder Myra never forgot the millions of her people still enslaved on their homeworld. Every night she prayed for them. Every night she wished there was something she could do. Then 1 year after their arrival on Earth, Sergeant Major Chen came to visit with unusual news. Elder Myra, he said, his face serious. The Terran Council has made a decision. They've been watching the Korath Empire for a long time. They've been gathering intelligence, building forces, making plans. Plans for what? Chen's eyes burned with that fire she had seen on the day they first met. Plans for liberation. We're going to free your people, Elder Myra, all of them, every single Velari in Korath space. Myra's heart stopped. You cannot. The Korath are too powerful. You would need an army beyond measure. Chen smiled. That's exactly what we have. The Terran Marine Corps has been preparing for this. 30 battle groups, over 100,000 Marines, the largest operation in human history. He knelt before her just as he had done on the day they met. Your people adopted us as much as we adopted them. You taught us your songs, shared your stories, welcomed us into your hearts. You are family now, Elder Myra, and we don't leave family in chains. The war to liberate the Velari was about to begin. The liberation of the Velari homeworld was not a single battle but a campaign that lasted 3 months. The Terran fleet, 30 battle groups strong, descended upon Korath space like a storm. They came not as conquerors but as liberators. Their mission was simple: free every Velari slave and destroy any who stood in their way. News of the campaign spread throughout the galaxy. Other species watched with amazement and fear. The Terrans were doing something no one had ever done before. They were challenging the Korath Empire not for territory or resources but for the freedom of another species. This was unprecedented. This was unheard of. This changed everything. Elder Myra watched the reports on Earth, surrounded by her small community. Every day brought new updates. The Terran forces had taken the outer colonies. The Korath fleet was retreating. The slave camps were being liberated one by one. They're winning, young Bren said, his eyes glued to the screen showing tactical maps. The Terrans are actually winning. Old Demas shook his head in wonder. No one defeats the Korath, no one, yet the humans scatter them like leaves in wind. On the Velari homeworld, Sergeant Major Chen led one of the liberation teams. His unit was assigned to the largest slave camp, the one holding 500,000 Velari. The camp was heavily defended, ringed by walls and towers and automated weapons. The Korath had fortified it, expecting the Terrans to come. They were not wrong. Assault teams in position, Chen reported through his comm, awaiting orders. Captain Williams, now commanding the flagship of the Liberation Fleet, responded, "You have authorization, Sergeant Major, bring them home." The assault began at dawn. Terran dropships screamed down from the sky, deploying Marines in precise formations. The camp's defenses opened fire, but the Terran shields held. Marines hit the ground running, their weapons blazing, their voices raised in battle cries. Chen led his team toward the main gate. They moved through a storm of enemy fire, their armor absorbing hits that would have killed unprotected soldiers. Around him, his Marines performed with the precision of a perfect machine. They had trained for this moment. They had lived for this moment. Breaching charge set, Corporal Davis shouted. "Everyone back," Chen ordered. The gate exploded inward. Marines poured through the gap, engaging the Korath guards who rushed to meet them. The fighting was brutal and close. The Korath were formidable warriors, larger and stronger than humans, but they had never faced anything like Terran Marines. "Push through," Chen commanded. "Get to the prisoners." Inside the camp, the Velari slaves huddled in their barracks, listening to the sounds of battle outside. They had heard rumors of the Terran invasion, but none of them had dared to believe it. Who would come for them? Who would risk war with the Korath Empire for the sake of slaves? The door to their barracks suddenly exploded inward. The Velari screamed and cowered, expecting Korath punishment squads. Instead, they saw something impossible. A Terran Marine stood in the doorway. He was huge, terrifying, covered in armor and weapons. But when he saw them, he lowered his rifle and pulled off his helmet. "It's okay," Sergeant Major Chen said softly. "It's okay, we're here to take you home. You're free, do you understand? You're free." One elderly Velari, an old female who had been a slave for 40 years, stepped forward. Her hands trembled as she reached out to touch Chen's face, as if making sure he was real. "Why," she whispered, "why would you come for us?" Chen knelt down to her level just as he had done with Elder Myra a year ago. "Because you have family who loves you. Because Elder Myra and the others never stopped hopping for you. Because you're one of us now and we don't leave our family behind." The old female collapsed into his arms, sobbing. Around her, other Velari began to cry too, not tears of sadness but tears of joy, tears of hope they had buried for decades, now suddenly bursting free. "Marines," Chen called out, "start evacuation procedures. Get these people to the transports. Handle them gently. They've been through enough." The liberation of the camp took 6 hours. When it was over, 500,000 Velari had been freed. The The Korath defenders were dead or captured. Not a single Velari was lost in the assault. Similar scenes played out across Korath space. Camp after camp was liberated. World after world was freed. The Korath Empire, which had built its power on slavery and conquest, crumbled under the Terran assault. They had never encountered a species willing to sacrifice so much for others. They had never understood that kind of dedication. Back on Earth, Elder Myra watched the liberation of her homeworld with tears in her eyes. She saw the ships descending to pick up the freed slaves. She saw her people, finally free after years of bondage, reaching up toward the Terran vessels with joy on their faces. They did it, she breathed. They actually did it. Little Kip and Sana sat beside her, watching the same broadcast. They had grown so much in the past year. They had learned human languages, attended human schools, made human friends, but they had never forgotten who they were or where they came from. "Are those our people?" Kip asked. "Yes, little one, those are our people coming home." The first transport ships arrived at Earth a month later. Thousands of Velari, weak and thin from years of slavery, stepped onto free soil for the first time. They were met by a crowd even larger than the one that had welcomed Myra's group. Humans and the original Velari refugees stood together, offering hands and embraces to the newcomers. Myra found herself standing next to Director Chen, watching the reunion unfold. "Your people have done something remarkable," she said. "Our people," Director Chen corrected gently. "You're one of us now, remember." Myra smiled. "Yes, I suppose I am." Sergeant Major Chen returned with the last wave of refugees. He had lost weight and gained new scars. The campaign had cost him, as it had cost all the Marines who fought in it, but his eyes still held that same fire, that same determination. Little Kip ran to him immediately, nearly knocking the big man over with the force of his hug. "You came back, you came back." Chen lifted the child and held him tight. "I promised I would, didn't I? You saved everyone, all of our people, you saved them all. Not just me, kid, all of us, every Marine who fought, every civilian who supported us, every Velari who refused to give up hope. We did it together." In the months that followed, the galaxy watched in amazement as the Terrans helped rebuild the Velari civilization. They sent teachers and doctors, engineers and builders. They helped clear the slave camps and transform them into communities. They worked side by side with the Velari, not as masters or saviors, but as partners, as family. The Korath Empire, meanwhile, fell into civil war. Without their slave labor, their economy collapsed. Without their image of invincibility, their subject species rose up against them. Within 2 years, the empire was gone, broken into a dozen smaller nations, none of them strong enough to threaten anyone. Elder Myra lived to see her people flourish again. She divided her time between Earth and her homeworld, serving as a bridge between the two cultures. She watched little Kip grow into a young man who dreamed of becoming a Marine. She watched Sana become a teacher, dedicating her life to helping refugee children just as she had once been helped. She watched as the Velari and humans became more than allies, more than friends. They became truly family, their cultures blending and growing together. Velari children played with human children in parks on Earth and on the homeworld. Velari and humans worked together, learned together, celebrated together. Other species began to take notice. The Talon Federation sent diplomats to Earth asking for protection treaties. The Mirth Collective, long oppressed by neighboring empires, petitioned for Terran alliance. One by one, the peaceful species of the galaxy began to look toward humanity with hope instead of fear. The Marines became legends. Stories of their bravery, their loyalty, their fierce protection of the innocent spread from system to system. Young aliens began to dream of joining them, of becoming part of something greater than themselves. The Terran Marine Corps, once a purely human institution, began to accept recruits from allied species. The first Velari Marine graduated 3 years after the liberation, a young male named Cairo who had been freed from the camps as a child. 10 years after the liberation, Elder Myra stood on the bridge of a new ship, the TSS Unity. It was a joint Terran-Velari vessel crewed by both species, designed as a symbol of their bond. Sergeant Major Chen, now Colonel Chen, stood beside her. Captain Williams, now Admiral Williams, commanded the ship. Today, Williams addressed the assembled crew. "We embark on a new mission, not a mission of war, but a mission of hope. We go to seek out other species in need, other refugees, other peoples who need protecting, and we will offer them what we offered the Velari, a home, a family, protection forever." Myra looked out at the stars. So much had changed since that day her small, broken ship had drifted through an asteroid field. She had been so afraid then, afraid of everything. afraid of the Korath, afraid of the unknown, afraid of the future. Now, standing on the bridge of a warship that was also a symbol of love, surrounded by people who were both human and Velari, she felt no fear at all. "Colonel Chen," she said softly. "Yes, Elder Myra. Thank you for everything." Chen smiled down at her. "You don't have to thank me, that's what family does. We protect each other, always." The TSS Unity jumped into hyperspace, beginning its journey to help others just as the Velari had been helped. Behind them, Earth and the Velari homeworld continued to thrive, connected by bonds that could never be broken. Because when Terran Marines adopt alien refugees, those refugees become protected forever. Not just for a day, not just for a year, but forever, across all of space and time, through every challenge and every danger. That is the promise of the Terran Marine Corps. That is the promise of family. And that is a promise they will never ever break.